Hey, everybody, and I forgot to put a title. How about that?
Way to go, Dave.
Hey, but that's not going to stop us, because here we go. Hey, everybody, the GMG pregame show is about to start. Grab your favorite beverage of choice. Sit down. Get ready to communicate with us. And let's go! GMG's pregame show is about to start. That's what the countdown timer is for. Are you ready? The guys are ready to break down the game. Let's go, Vikings! SKOL! That means it's time. SKOL! Everybody, it's Dave here for Vlogmas Day 4, and we're doing Vikings versus Jaguars on the GMG pregame show. And we're off to a heck of a start. Anybody heard of George Thorogood? 1 bourbon, 1 scotch, and 1 beer?
No, Dave, we've never heard of George Thorogood.
Dude, we're guys in our 40s and 50s. Who hasn't heard of that song? Stop it.
Anyways, that's what it feels like. Joining me tonight,
1 scotch and 1 beer.
Is on my top side, the bass ripper.
Just say he's here.
The Drewster!
Hey! What up? What up, GMG dudes? What's going on? Everybody out there in TV land? How's everybody doing tonight? Take that ridiculous hoodie off. I don't want to look at that thing online.
No, never.
And then,
what up, Smitty?
Then joining us below from the frozen north, up there in Fargo, the drone master, Rhino, king of the jungle. How you doing, Rhino?
What's up, boys?
What are you drinking?
It is the limited edition outdoors deer hunting version of Busch Light. Blaze Orange.
Trying to give yourself an ulcer, are you?
Hey, you go for quantity, not quality all the time.
And then,
I hear you.
and then, over here, the great one, Mr. Ted
Wayne Gretzky?
Glover. How you doing, buddy?
I'm not great. I'm mediocre. Everybody else just sucks. Let's go.
You're decent.
Average.
I love
All right.
that intro. It's so brick. So
Let's
brick
light
in
this
the
candle,
wall,
baby.
man.
Let's talk
Dave, what's the-
Jaguars football, and that they come to town Sunday to play our Minnesota Vikings.
Famous or infamous?
One or
Wait,
the
before we
other.
start, Dave, what's the beer count, Dave? You look like you're on 13. What are you at? Where are you at?
Actually, no. Why I brought up George Thorogood is I started. I didn't think I have.
He's had the bourbon and the scotch. Now he's on the beer. So.
Well, actually,
Okay.
I started with the bourbon, had the beer to make the roll in because I needed that to make the roll in, and I'm back on the bourbon, and it's about quite a few. So
You're ready. You're ready for
I'm primed.
ESPN, baby.
I'm primed for this pregame show.
No- well, good.
But
Good.
normally Rhino goes over the last game, but it's Friday and we're only going to talk pregame unless there's absolutely something you have to add, Rhino. Is there?
No, I got really nothing. I mean, you guys covered her all pretty good in the Raw show after the game last week, so we can put that in the rearview mirror and time to move forward to the other kiddies.
Did you see that Kirk Cousins won the Offensive Player of the Week for that last performance against the Panthers?
And Dalvin Cook won Offensive Player of the Month.
He sure did. Now, do you think he can continue that versus the Jags?
God, I sure the hell hope so. It's Jacksonville. I mean, they're fully entrenched in the either tank for Trevor, fail for Fields, whichever. You know, Doug Marrone is
Whichever for Trevor.
just sitting here just playing out the end of the season. I mean, you know, as soon as the season's over, his key's not going to work in his office door anymore, you know, so.
We'll see. Ted,
What?
any opinions on this upcoming game?
You know,
We are on fire on this show, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
This show is
yeah, we're lighting it up tonight, boys.
Great
Yeah,
way
this
to
is
start
fucking-
it live, boys.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't know what to make of this game. I mean, on paper, you look at it, and Jacksonville's 1-10. The Vikings have climbed back to within a game of 500. When, a month and a half ago, they were sitting at 1-5, and they look like they were very much more in contention for the first pick overall than a playoff spot. 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, we said this upcoming 3-game homestand, which was Dallas, Carolina, and now Jacksonville. One of these games, we fully expected the Vikings to stub their toe on, and they did that. They sure did that against Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
They squeaked out a win against Carolina thanks to some horrific quarterback play by one Theodore Bridgewater at the end of that game, and exemplary quarterback play by Kirk Cousins.
I would call it horrific at the end of the game, but especially
There
at
it
the
is.
beginning
There
of the
it
game,
is.
it was terrible.
Everybody else would.
Wait.
Everybody else would. You're the only one in that foxhole. Stop it.
At the end of the game, he drove down and got the field goal range.
Hold on. Throwing a challenge flag on that one.
Yeah.
Freaking.
I'll throw the challenge.
If that was
I'll throw the
was
challenge.
Cousins, you'd be saying that he gets a fucking F for the entire thing because he didn't finish out the game. Bridgewater
That's
had
not
a wide open receiver in the back of the end zone.
Oh, in the
back
end
there,
zone, and
DJ
he should have
Moore.
hit him. That was horrible.
And I mean, that would have been the go-ahead points, and we'd have been screwed. But he threw it 10 yards behind him. Or more busted his ankle or tweaked his knee or did whatever, trying to go back for the ball because it was so far behind him. And so if anybody's getting an F grade for not finishing out a game, it has to be Mr. Theodore Bridgewater from last week.
I agree.
So we just want you to be consistent here, Dave.
So they won that game. And so I don't want to pull a Stefano before the Denver game last year and make a declarative statement statement about how the Vikings are going to do.
Dad, don't do it.
I'm not. I'm just saying they've had their stub their toe game. They had their barely eke out a victory game. So hopefully they've gotten it out of their system. And if I was ever going to expect the Vikings to play a good football game, you would think it would be at home with an increasing chance to play past the 16th game of the season against a very bad football team. We'll see.
Yeah, but they haven't had a good record at home this season.
No, you're right. They haven't. So,
no.
I mean, there's a lot of things that make me feel pretty good about this game, but every time I start feeling pretty good about this game, I think to myself, well, this is the same team that couldn't drive the field against Tennessee. This is the same team that sucked against a pretty bad Falcons team. This is the same team that was pretty terrible against a pretty terrible Dallas team. So, I think we say this every week, which Vikings team is going to show up, I guess. It all comes down to that. Are they going to come out prepared and ready to play? If they are, I think they'll have a good day. If they just kind of take this game lightly like they appeared to for Carolina and Dallas, we're going to be chewing glass late into the fourth quarter.
I was listening to Matthew Collar and Courtney today.
Oh, here we go.
And Courtney Cronin was saying the problem with this team is trust. They can't trust the team to whether it's going to come out and play well or play badly. And you just don't know because they played well, decently against some decent teams. And they beat, of course, Green Bay in the win game. But they've come out lousy against some bad teams and lost against Dallas and Atlanta. And you just don't know what team's going to show up.
Well, but, that's kind of a recurring theme for this franchise under Mike Zimmer and even before then.
Well, there's usually that one game
we can play up, or play down to our competition.
Uh-huh.
And with Jacksonville being a raging dumpster fire, my concern is we play down to that. The Vikings aren't good enough to take anybody lightly, but we do tend to do that from time to time, and then it bites us in the ass.
Drewster, what are your thoughts, and do you have any numbers on this game? And we have Snarlex B writes.
Hey, we got our first comment.
My first thought is how fat I'm getting. I really got to go on a diet.
You and me both.
The mystery of whether the Vikings are going to win every week and, play down to the opponent, that's all comes from being an inconsistent team, and it's all etched into our brains. Nothing more that I'd like to see. Why don't we have the Vikings come out from the get-go, go up 14-0, maybe give up a couple field goals, score a couple more touchdowns, be up by 28-6 at third quarter, and why can't we have a game like that? If any game's going to call for it, this probably should be the one, because we're facing a team that's 31st in defense, 29th against the run, 29th against the pass. What are they? 30th in scoring. They're absolutely horrible on paper, but we all know what that means.
I mean, so was Dallas. I mean, those are similar numbers that Dallas had, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very, very similar.
They're very close. Here they are.
I still think, Ted, that the playoffs were lost on that Dallas game. That you got to win that game, and I think that at the end of the year, that's going to be the one crucial loss. That we were on a roll when that happened. We've won 4 out of 5, but let's look at it realistically, guys. This football team has only beat one team with a winning record, and that was Green Bay up in Lambeau. Only one. So this isn't a team. They don't have a winning record. They've lost 10 games in a row. They've lost 10 games in a row. Players on that team have already checked out at Jacksonville. I want to say that the Vikings are consistent enough to get in there and roll these guys, but I can't. I'm kind of like with Ted. You got to wait to see what happens, what kind of team shows up. And the fact that we say what Viking team will show up is right. It goes on the head coach and the staff, if you ask me. That's where it comes down to. You can't be this roller coaster and inconsistent. I mean, this game should be an ass whooping. And for some reason, all of us think the same thing. Well, it probably won't be because we're not used to seeing that. You know?
We're apprehensive.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement that the Vikings should roll this team. But I think we're all in agreement the Vikings should roll this team. But none of us are confident that they will. And there we go with the lines.
Yeah.
what am I looking at again here?
Vikings are favored by 9.5. Over/unders 52. PFF does not love the Jaguars. They love
when was the last
offense.
When was the last time the Vikings were that heavily favored? Was it the Bills game last year?
The Bills
Buffalo game last year, probably when. And look what happened with that game.
Yep.
You know what?
That was 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. But I think that was the only time in Minnesota Vikings history they were favored by 16 and lost by 3 touchdowns. That is rare. That is a rare line to find. That is terrible, beyond terrible. It's horrible to hold that kind of. I mean, if you're favored by 16, the only way you should lose that game is by a field goal. You shouldn't lose by 3 touchdowns. But the Vikings, I mean, look at on the offensive side of the ball. The whole reason they should kick Jacksonville's ass is you got Thielen and Jefferson and Cousins and Cook, but they don't seem to run away in games. And the defense has gotten better, but what about him? Fuck, he dropped the punt.
After 3 years, he got his first touchdown. That's tree stump territory.
Look at it like this. Look. Simplified like this. Carolina is a terrible football team. They didn't have their best player. They have a shitty quarterback and a shitty defense. All right?
And we almost lost to him.
We had to go on a game-saving last-minute drive to beat them, and the only reason they lost is their kicker missed a field goal. That's why the Vikings won that game. They should have lost that game.
Back-to-back plays in the third quarter where they had fumble recovery touchdowns within 10 freaking seconds of game time.
Carolina shouldn't have been in a position to beat us, man. They shouldn't have. We're a better team than they are, but the Vikings don't. Man, I don't know what it is. They need some killer instinct about them, but I'll be watching this weekend. If the Vikings do go up, get some kind of a lead by 2 touchdowns, see what kind of response they have. If they can go 50-10 with Jimmy Hitchcock memory, maybe they can do some of that. But
memories of '98, brother.
Yeah, I mean that was they're up 34-3 and they're passing. I mean that's what I want to see, dude. Cutthroat.
You're never going to see that with this team with Zimmer gets up by 6 points. It goes into.
Yeah, but why don't you want to see that?
Well, I want to see it, but we don't see it.
And we talk about resting Dalvin Cook. If we get up, let's rest him. Put Alexander Mattison.
We say that and it never happens though. Dalvin Cook is on schedule to have 320 carries. 320.
Madison is going to get 5 or 6 carries a game.
That guy's going to be beat to piss in another 3 weeks.
You know, there's a good chunk of people before the season started that were saying that we didn't need to re-sign Dalvin Cook because Mattison is a good enough back to be a starter. He's getting 5 carries a game. If he's that good, we need Cook for the stretch run. If we have any idea or mind at all about even trying to make a playoff push, you got to have Cook for the remainder of the season. So, you said, if we get up by a couple 3 scores, you let him sit and you let Mattison come in and tote the rock for a while.
The Vikings can't afford. They can't afford. They haven't been able to afford to sit Cook in any game this year because they've either been behind or it's been too close to call.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we said that about the Dallas game. We said that about the Carolina game. I think we said that about probably earlier in the year at some point, about the halfway point. Hey, look, Cook's starting to get a lot of work. He's got to be ready for the stretch run. I mean, boys, the stretch run is here, and Dalvin Cook is getting more carries than he was in week 1.
But as he said, that's what he gets paid for.
Okay, but you never,
which is true.
So here's it's true, but you never let the player make the decision on whether or not he's going to play, because the great ones will always get in and play, even if they're up 40-0. And trust me, don't take this the wrong way, because I love that work ethic and I love that attitude and I love that. I want to be out there on every play and help my team. That, Lord knows, the Vikings need more players like Dalvin Cook. I'm not saying they don't, but they can't afford to risk having Cook out there for 30 or 35 carries a game. He's got an injury history. The more carries, the more mileage he gets, the greater the chance that happens again. And if he gets a serious injury where he's gone for a game or even 2 games at this point, it is going to be, it's going to be a dagger for the Vikings. They can't afford to keep running him as much as they do, but they can't not afford it either with the way they've been playing all these close games against teams they should not be playing close games against.
Am I
because
hearing
they have no plan B, Ted?
No, they don't.
B. They have to have Cook. You have to have Cook to structure an offense. You take them out of there, they can't move the ball.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, we've seen it before. You take Dalvin out, the play action goes away, then Kirk is less effective because there's no, that's what he's best, is playing off the play action. And if he has no, if they don't think we're going to run the ball, then the play action is gone. So then the whole thing starts falling apart.
But I thought that's what you wanted. Draft position. Get rid of the coach.
We do, but we lost that draft position thing a couple 3 weeks ago when we went on this 4 out of 5 run. Dave, you know that.
I think the Vikings do want to rest Cook, and I think it's getting to the point where they even know there's a lot of wear and tear going on as we head into this last month of the season. But I think the combination of not having a quarterback who can carry the team by himself, that in combination with having a poor defense you don't trust, always has to have Dalvin Cook on the field. That's why we rely on Dalvin Cook. Those 2 things to me are the reason they can't sit him. They can't.
Louder for the people in the back of the room.
They can't sit him and hope that Kirk. No, let's put it in Kirk's hand. Let him run the game out. Let him manage the game. He could run it his way. Put Mattison in. If we get in trouble, Cousins can carry us, and the defense can carry us. They don't have either of those things. They can't. Well, they have it, but they don't rely on it. I don't think they really believe in it. They don't believe in their defense.
And I don't think the defense this year can carry us. They did in previous years, but not this year. No way.
So I think that's why I think they do.
I agree with Dave on the defense.
They would like to save Cook, but I don't.
That's something we all knew starting out the season, is that the offense is going to have to carry this team.
Right, because the defense wouldn't. Not when we're starting all those rookies. It was impossible.
And who made that call again? I mean, it just goes back to
it goes back to
Carla Jones
planning,
made a great
how
comment.
you're spending your money, who you're drafting.
Zimmer
the
has
whole
no killer
work.
instinct, and I agree. And you can't have a killer. I mean, Zimmer has no killer instinct. I 100% agree with that. He likes to get a lead and then sit on the lead with running the ball and playing good defense. Well, that doesn't work very well when you don't have a great defense. And who put the? I mean, if that's the philosophy you want to run, you better have a good defense. And who made the decision on the personnel packages this year that ended up with
not just
defense.
this year, but the year before and the year before and the year before.
Well, pretty much everything
built up.
We've talked about this before. Everything we've done since 2017. We're paying a lot of money to a handful of players to the point where we can't have decent backup players and role playing guys in there who can, veteran cornerbacks who can help the young guys out, so we don't have to have Harrison Smith and Anthony Harris back there babysitting these guys all the time, or, so we don't have a defensive line where everybody's starting is no higher than a 4th round pick. A lot of guys are later than that.
Viking Jerome's in the house.
You know what? I don't have any excuses for Zimmer and his defense. You go with the great Don Coryell and say, "This is the players we got, and we got to win with them. We got to figure out a way to win with them." Excuses are like lame ass tools of failure. I don't want to hear about excuse. I want to hear production out of what you got on the field. That's what I want to hear. That's why you're the head coach. Figure it out.
Excuses are like moral victories.
Well, he has. We've won how many in the last 5 games?
No, they've won 4 of 5, and they've played better as a defense. But I think, and I've said this all along, I think the Vikings are gun shy on both sides of the ball. I really do. I think they coach scared still. I think they got to let it go at some point. At some point, you got to blitz the quarterback on 3rd and 12 and take a shot at getting a turnover.
I would argue. Go ahead, Drew. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. They still seem like a little bit, they're holding back a little bit rather than just throwing caution to the wind and saying, basically, fuck it.
I would argue the offense has kind of gotten a little bit more aggressive in recent games to an extent, but I 100% agree with you on the defense. The only game where I think they were aggressive and set the tone of the game would be the Bears game in Chicago, that Monday night game. Yeah. Other than that, they just kind of sit and wait for things to happen, which until this year was not very characteristic of Mike Zimmer's defense. To Zimmer's credit, until this year, well, maybe a little bit last year, but his first few years in Minnesota, the Minnesota Vikings defense set the tone and made the offense react to what they were doing. That has now completely flipped, and they're reacting to what the offense is doing.
Mm-hmm. But now, along with the defense, the one thing that concerns me a little bit on this, look back to the Dallas game. We weren't blitzing and everything else because Dallas had the threat of the run. That's one thing Jacksonville does have, that James Robinson, a rookie out of Illinois State, he's got just shy of 900 yards rushing this year. He's got 6 touchdowns, and he's 280 yards passing and a couple of touchdowns on top of that. So, they do have a running game. And if we're sitting back there scared that running game is going to gash us like we were against Dallas, and we have Mike Glennon back there. He's basically another freaking Andy Dalton type. He's not.
I don't know if he's that good. He's a backup, and the last time we played him, we beat him.
Yeah, we played Glennon before, but that doesn't mean anything.
You better, to echo what the Rhinoceros is saying, you better watch out for James Robinson. You don't make the Drew big board for running backs at the draft if you're a scrub, do you? Do you?
No,
that kid's good.
He was number 9. I had him at number 9 on my list, I think. But
and the Vikings defense
every year in college, he's always been a good running back.
How many rushing yards we give up against the Panthers, Ted? Do you have any numbers in front of you?
I can look it up real quick. Give me a second.
If it's not a
talk
problem,
amongst yourselves, I'll let you know.
I would like to know, because I know Dallas gashed us, and I just don't know off the top of my head whether we did any better, whether we picked up a little better on the run defense versus.
Well, there's your yards.
Well, no, I'm talking about last week.
Panthers only had 107 yards rushing.
That's it. Which
is
more
than the Vikings that only had 96.
Yeah, I think Dallas had 900. So I think it's a step in the right direction.
Well, part of that was because Chris Jones did on that run with.
And they didn't have McCaffrey. He wasn't in there. He probably would have got more. But
yeah, that's true.
Man, when the Vikings are getting gashed on the run, their defense is 100 times worse than what. Let's face it, the Vikings do the bend but don't break. They're going to give up yards 20 to 20, and then Zimmer says we're going to clamp down. Look at the Lions game. They gave them all sorts of yards. They got down to the 20-yard line. Stafford threw a pick. Lions got the ball back, drove all the way down. Kendricks with a pick in the end zone. That's what their defense is. We're going to let them all the way down here to the 20. Then we're going to tighten up.
They're going to shrink the field and give him less space for the offense.
Did that against Carolina last week too. It was, part of the problem was those 14 points they got in 10 seconds on those 2 turnovers we had. Other than that, our defense only gave up 13 points. So there was more of that there too, but that's another thing that, it's going to boil down on this stuff is we can't have these stupid turnovers like, the 2 fumble return for touchdowns like we had last week, or the 2 block punts that we had against Detroit a couple weeks ago, or, or the muff punts that we've been having, whether it's Ozzy Osbourne back there or Chad Beebe or whoever. And
crazy train.
Disclaimer, I don't want to see either one of those two back there returning punts anymore. I don't know who you're going to put back there out of its
Mike
BC
Hughes.
Johnson.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And
Thielen's return punt
back there. Speaking of injuries, here's your Vikings injury report. The only two people that have been listed as completely out are DJ Wanham and Irv Smith Jr.
The hell happened to Wanham?
Wanham hurt his ankle. He played through it.
That time he probably busted his sternum with that trucking he got.
And then back.
Yeah, what about that run? Ted, didn't that remind you of Earl Campbell against Isaiah Robertson when Wanham got stuffed?
I think those are just tweaks. They'll be fine for Mike Zimmer.
What did Carla just say? Oh, we can't go back to somebody's comment.
The only reason we beat Carolina is they stopped running the ball. I agree with that.
She's not wrong.
We never stopped.
Carla is
should have run it down our throats the whole game. And
the first half they were.
I agree with you, Marky.
Carla's not ding 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 knowledge alert. That's good.
Ted, there's our buddy Ted.
No matter what we do in December, the game.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. Anyways, keep going. Yes, Jerome, I agree. Hercules needs to step up, especially this week, because he will be getting a lot of playing time with Wanham out.
I got a question. Why is Gardner, Uncle Rico Sex Machine Minshew not playing? I love that guy. I want to watch him play.
Thumb on his playing hand. Nah, he supposedly broke a thumb or tore up ligaments in the thumb on his throwing hand. He was limited practice this week, but they ruled him out.
I want the Disco Sex Machine behind center for Jacksonville. That's why I want to keep playing.
But if you're Jacksonville and you want to lose to get a draft choice, and their fans are rooting for the Jets to win so they can get higher in the draft, do you play Minshew or do you play Glennon? And they've chosen to play Glennon this week.
Screw Jacksonville's fans because they got a thing going out right now. They're trying to get Unique Ngakoue put into the freaking Pro Bowl so they get a higher draft pick from us from that stupid thing. There was a thing on social media I saw that they had a call out for all Jacksonville fans to go vote for Unique Ngakoue to make the freaking Pro Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Christ's sakes.
Yeah, they're avid. They're avid bunch of fans. I can't knock them for that.
By the way, it's not DJ Clark. It's DJ Chark.
Chark.
Yeah. I had to get it from Dave yesterday on your.
Well, I got it written down as Clark. But anyways, Chark.
I think he's probably their only other really. I feel bad I can't really break down Jacksonville's team because, like I said, I don't know 6 guys on there
Clark.
now. So
I literally can't name. Besides Glennon and Minshew, I can't name 2 more.
You got Keelan Cole on the offense.
His name is Chark. Chark. That's his name.
I may have misspelled it.
Okay. I didn't know. Yeah, there he is.
You got Laviscus Chenault.
He's out, isn't he? He's hurt.
No, I don't think so. I've got his Jaguars report. Here you go. Laviscus Chenault is not on there.
You got your shit together tonight, Davey. Excellent.
That looks like a CFL roster, man.
Sidney Jones, he's leading the team in interceptions. So that's something.
Right. CFL their defense is hurting now. They do have.
If they were healthy, they'd still be 30th in the league. Jesus, it's terrible.
They are. They're 31st. They're 31st in the league. Bottom line is they're an NFL team,
right?
And if you play shitty enough, you could lose to them. That's the only thing that really matters in this whole.
They still do have Miles Jack, Josh Allen's on IR. Those are your 2 best defensive players. Their defensive back situation is very, very similar to ours. They're playing rookies on rookies. Listening to Locked On Vikings today, they play strictly a cover one defense where all their corners and their safeties are one-on-one, and they get beat all the time. They were beat on I think it was the fly route 6 times on the same route. So,
Carla, I had that same thought when I was looking through the Jags roster earlier today. It's the opening scene from Major League. This guy here is dead. We'll cross him off then.
Jerome talking about clean pocket. He may have a better one because it looks like my boy Ezra Cleveland will be back in the lineup, which means Brett Jones disappears.
Back into witness protection.
He goes back into Sasquatch mode.
Yep.
X-Files. And something that jumped out of my paperwork when I was crunching some numbers is the Jags have given up 30 sacks. So maybe this is a game we can get home with 3 or 4. Maybe get 3 or 4 sacks packed up on our sides. So
be nice.
See.
I mean,
and they only have 11. They only have 11 sacks coming into this game total. The Jags 11.
Wow.
I mean, our sacks leader hasn't played on our team for the last 4 weeks. So,
hey, they only have 11 all season, Ted. So what does that mean Sunday? How many sacks will the Jags get?
4. By halftime. I'm such a pessimist. God, I don't even know why you guys have me on this show. I'm such a pessimist.
That's not pessimism. That's realism. That's what the shit that happens to us.
That's that lack of trust.
Here's what. No, this is why it isn't pessimism.
Yes, Dave. Yes.
Listen, going into the Dallas game, the 3 previous games the Cowboys had, they totaled 41 points in those 3 games. And how many did they get against us?
40.
Yeah.
So it's not pessimism.
They were minus 13 in turnovers, and they won the turnover battle that game. I mean, that's just the kind of stuff that drives me nuts about the Vikings. Things you think they should do so well in, they just when they, we talked about it earlier. It's just the playing to the level of their competition, and it just is so aggravating. So aggravating.
You can't do it.
Yeah,
dude, you can't.
Well, and if there's an obscure bad statistic that can be set during a game, the Vikings are going to fucking do it. I mean, I don't know how many of those things we own in the NFL history.
Back-to-back safeties. I mean, they piling them up this year.
3 games in a row with safeties.
2 block punts in one game.
2 fumble return touchdowns by the same guy within 10 seconds of each other.
I mean, you're playing a shit team. Come out and kick their ass like you're supposed to. I mean, come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jesus,
it goes back to what a commenter Carla was saying earlier. Zimmer doesn't have that killer instinct. I think he'll get up. I can very well see this scenario playing out. The Vikings will get up by 10, maybe 14 points. They'll kind of milk the clock, try to run out, trying to run the game out, and they'll go 3 and out, or they'll commit a turnover deep in their territory, and Jacksonville will get like a kind of out of nowhere score, or like a special team something, or they'll get a defensive touchdown. And next thing you know, with 5 minutes to go or 4 minutes to go, it's a 7-point ball game, and anybody can win it. And if they had the sex magic stud Gardner Minshew playing, they'd win the game.
Minshew mania.
Yeah, it never fails from the. I've seen so many times on these Zimmer teams when they have a lead in the second half, then all of a sudden it's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out,
yeah.
3 and out, 3 and
Right.
out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude?
And at that point in time, when you got a 14, 17 point lead and you have a drive that gets you like 4 first downs and then you have to punt and it eats off 8 minutes off the clock, that's not a failure. That actually that could work. It's the 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and you're just constantly giving it back to them. If you have a long drive and you get no points, but you're running clock that drastically, that's a success drive. That's a good drive. But you can't just have 3 and outs.
And if nothing else, you you punt and then you pin them deep and you make them drive the field, something the Jaguars are probably not capable of doing consistently for an entire game.
But I would love to see somebody on the offensive side go, hey, and somebody by meaning the offensive coordinator, let's go to say, let's pad the stats time. Let's dial it up. And, Thielen, you've got it. You're going for 12 catches today. Jefferson, you're going for 12 catches today. And just try to run it up. I would love to see that on the offensive side.
Yeah, you don't see that with this team, though, because Zimmer's mindset, once he gets a lead, he's just going to sit on it and let the defense do their thing and play out the clock. We talked about this last week.
You can't do that when you have
No, you can't. But,
when you have the 24th ranked defense, you can't play that strategy.
You can't do that, no. But the right move is, okay, if, like we said, last week, whatever it was, if you're up by 10 points, you need to be trying to go up by 17 points. If you're up by 3 scores, you need to try to be going up by 4 scores. And once you get maybe, into the middle of the fourth quarter, if you're up by 20 points or whatever, then you can start milking the clock and you don't have to, keep pouring the coals to the points. You can I'm not going to lose any sleep about it if we keep running, or if we do run it up and we end up with putting a 50 burger on them, but it just, we don't have that mentality.
Sorry, I'm going off with Ted Bertrand. Listen. Zimmer would have made Mahomes a cornerback.
But no, that's true. Dave, you say
no,
I'd love to see.
You're right.
I'd love to see Thielen get 12 catches or whoever, but that would require this killer instinct that the Vikings, Mike Zimmer, Gary Kubiak, just they don't have, man. They play that.
Why don't they have it, Ted? Why don't they have it?
I think it's because Mike Zimmer grew up in an era where running the football was dominant. Running the football and suffocating defense was dominant. I mean, he coached under Bill Parcells, who came from those great Giants teams, and he was on those great Dallas teams that where they won those 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. And that was the thinking, and that was the philosophy, and it worked.
Yeah. And back when My Sharona was the #1 song. Come on.
I agree.
Yeah. Well,
but he hasn't evolved. A guy like Andy Reid, bless his heart, evolved, and look what he did with Pat Mahomes. I just, Ted made a good point about. I don't think it would have been that drastic, but I don't think a guy like Pat Mahomes would have had the success here he's had in Kansas City, because the Vikings are just too rigid in their thinking as to what they think constitutes a winning formula.
Yeah, Zimmer's running the team the same way in 2020 as he ran his defense and everything in 1994.
Yeah.
He's not going to let Mahomes take charge.
He makes adjustments.
Mike Zimmer would not let Mahomes take charge of this team like he does in Kansas City, like Mahomes does. No way.
So one of you guys, we were talking the other day, and one of you guys mentioned we were talking about Leslie Frazier and would Frazier who
it was
you, Dave?
Yeah.
What did you ask again?
Because we're talking about Russell, and the Vikings didn't draft him, and Drew chimed in, well, Zimmer would have ruined him. And I said, well, if he would have been drafted, that would have been on Leslie Frazier. Would Zimmer even have been hired at that point? Would Frazier and the Vikings gotten so much better that there wouldn't have been a need to fire Leslie Frazier and move on to Zimmer?
Yeah, because Wilson got drafted in 2012. And say what you want about Leslie Frazier. A great guy, and he had pretty good defenses historically, but he was willing to take a risk with a mobile quarterback in Christian Ponder. That was Ponder's MO. He had an okay arm, but he was kind of a dual threat guy. And you put Russell Wilson on that 2012 team with like Percy Harvin, and that was your AP had 2,000 yards. I don't know, man. That's they had okay guys
playing Green Bay in the wild card game. We're sitting at home watching the wild card game, waiting for our second round matchup. if that was the case.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, but yeah, we'll see.
It just seems to me you're up by 10 or 14 in the third quarter. It seems like that's all the more reason to want to be up by 24.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And then get into the fourth quarter and take your foot off the gas and put in all your back.
7-8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, fine. Not 7-8 minutes into the third quarter, you're already going into coast mode. That
right.
You can't do that.
It's and I said it way back when we were talking about blogging back in the day. Why don't they take the attitude that a college team does? Oklahoma would beat somebody, 52-7 or something like that. And they go, why do you keep it on the coals? And the guys would say, hey, I've got second string in and they're scoring, and I got third string in and they're scoring, right? Because they're still game planning, no matter who's playing, to score. So why don't they do that in the NFL consistently? And there isn't a team one that I've seen. Maybe you might call Kansas City because they got the quarterback to do it, that does it regularly. They don't. They play a different game. And I'd rather see that 52-7. Or if Ohio State runs it up on St. Mary's School for the Blind 72-3,
Or Michigan.
Or Michigan. Well, that's St. Mary's School for the Blind is probably the only one they win this week.
I'm sick of your fucking Ohio State comments. I'm sick of them. You know what? I'm calling Harbaugh, and I'm going to have him intentionally drop that game next week so you don't qualify. I'm going to say, just
whatever.
Guys, man.
Well, they might do it because of the hatred.
Change the rules for Ohio State. They won't change the rules for anybody else. They'll change the rules for Ohio State. But no, seriously, I don't think a team can consistently score that much in the NFL because, we talked about the Jaguars being a bad NFL team, and they are. But everybody on their roster was all conference this or all conference that or all conference runner up, and
right.
There's teams in college you could take the week off against pretty much, and you can be up 50-0 at halftime simply for the fact you could play a horrible game, but the athletes you have on your team are just so much superior to your opponent that you're eventually going to wear them down and you're going to win. You don't very, very rarely in the NFL do you get that. I mean, very rarely.
It's hard to compare the two because the NFL is everybody's good. The players are all good. And in college, you got your handful of good players on. I mean, some of these schools have like 5 good players, and the rest are all just high school guys that couldn't get on with it, didn't get scholarship. Right. It all comes down to the big teams getting the big scholarships. It's easier to run up the score in college. But I would think that last time I really seen it in the NFL was Bill Belichick when the Patriots are really going good. I watched a Patriot game against the Redskins, and it was like the end of the third quarter, and the Patriots are up like 52-7. And fucking Belichick started running reverses and throwing deep slant. It was crazy, dude. He was running up the score. That's the last time I've really seen it in the NFL. It is harder to do at that level. It's extremely hard to do at that level. But that doesn't mean you don't stop trying.
Exactly.
Like Rhino says, you go into the Vikings are obvious when they go into coast mode. As Rhino says, coast mode. It's obvious when they do it. They'll do that up the middle, 2-yard pass to the
three and out punt. 3 and out.
Yeah,
punt. 3 and out punt. Crap!
3, 4.
The other team is now 3 points behind us. What the hell happened?
And on the last game thread, after they went up 7-0, I go, watch, they're going into defend the win mode. It drives us crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you get these people, run up the score. No, if you don't want teams to run up the score on you, then freaking stop them.
It's professional football. All that gentleman's stuff is all bullshit. If they could run up the score, that every coach would be running it up. They all would, dude. I mean,
well, and another good comment brought up by Carla is our offense is pure vanilla. We need to be using a lot more deception and creativity, and she's right. And that goes back into the get up and just run the ball and try and eat the clock and get out of there with the win. And I she's right in the fact that the Vikings really aren't very imaginative. I mean, they can be very imaginative. I think Kubiak calls some pretty good plays, but they're They seem to be more the exception than the rule.
Have you noticed the pattern over the
close.
last few games? That if they run on first down, they pass on second. If they pass on first down, they run on second. And it's becoming a pattern. And if we're seeing this pattern, and if beat writers are seeing this pattern, defensive coordinators are seeing this pattern, and you don't want to be in any sort of pattern if you're the offensive coordinator calling plays. You want to set up things, but you want to make sure things are unpredictable.
Yeah, and I don't think the Vikings do a very good job of that.
On that note, though, we talked about last week, about how it seems like every time we have a 2nd and 7 or greater, we run the damn ball every time. I actually took a tally during the Carolina game. We had 14 plays that were 2nd and 7 or longer. We only ran on them twice.
It was because we ran on first down.
Yeah, that may be the case, but I mean, when we looked at a lot of these games before, it always seems like when it's 2nd long, they're handing the ball off to Cook and he's going up the middle with it.
Now,
so the one time we do actually pay attention, then they don't do it. But
watch this game this weekend to see if there's a pattern between first and second down and your 2nd and long.
Okay. Here's my request.
It's better than waking up in a bathtub full of ice.
Hey, here's my request. Within the next month, can we have Bertrand and Carla on this show? I think after tonight, both of those people have earned it. I mean, this is fantastic.
Dave, you need stuff for your
for Vlogmas 2020, where we're going live every day of the month of December.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely fantastic comments tonight. I'm really having a good time with it.
Speaking of Vlogmas 2020 and going live every day, tomorrow morning we're going to have on Tyler Forness. Tyler Forness joined us for the draft show. Tyler Forness is one of those draft experts. We have Tyler and Matt. Matt was Matt Foo Fighter. Matt. But Tyler will be on, and it'll be a new show called GMG with Friends, or something to that effect. I haven't built it yet, but we're going to be talking draft, prospects, needs for the Vikings. And do you think the Vikings have needs?
No, Dave, I think they're a perfect team.
No,
I think it's a Super Bowl roster, brother.
We can just take the draft off next year and roll right into 2021.
Exactly. But maybe we can get Carla or Ted on for one of these weekends. Saturday.
There's no maybe. There's no maybe. You're the producer. Make it happen. Produce the show, Dave.
Well, the problem is I'm getting a lot of people that want to come on.
Carla, I know you can't see me. Carla, can you be on the show?
See
Ted,
you.
can you be on the show?
She's watching.
It's a live broadcast. She can see you.
No, I know, but she might have went out to get a drink or something. Can you be on the show? Please answer on the screen so I can see. I want to talk football with you. And I just want Ted Bertrand, whoever you are, just to come on and talk because you're a funny mofo.
Ted's great. Ted's great. Absolutely. Ted's awesome.
Ted and Ted? Wow.
Yeah, Ted and Ted. Anyways, with that, we're at the time we need to wrap this up. Any last words there, Rhino?
I mean, this is another one of those games like we talked about before. We're just going to have to see how they come out. If they come out sharp, put up points right away, I think we'll have a good day. If we come out flat, 3 and out on the first drive or something stupid happens, then we could be, we could be in for one of those Buffalo games. I sure to hell hope not, but,
Oh, fuck.
Oh
no, I'm not calling for that.
No, I'm not either. But you guys know what I'm saying. I mean, we talked about it earlier. We never know who's going to show up.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of humor and Ted, Mr. Glover, last words.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be able to join you for the In the Raw show on Sunday because I will probably be in the. Well, hear me out. I will probably be in the emergency room from all the chewing of glass I will be doing for the last 4 minutes of this football game that we're going to watch. I'm probably going to need stitches for the inside of my mouth.
Are you going to get to see it?
I don't know. It's not on here, but I have.
You have ways.
Methods. I have means and methods.
I can't see this being the national broadcast game at all.
No, it's not. If I can get to the game, I'll let you guys know, and if I can watch the game, I'll be on. It just sort of depends. I think we're all in agreement. It's a game the Vikings should win by a very comfortable margin. It should be over by halftime, but we are probably going to be chewing our fingernails down to the bone with 2 minutes left to go. And I hope I'm wrong. And that said, I hope I'm wrong. I want the Vikings to just beat the brakes off the Jags. I do. I'd like to see them get to 500, and now it's anyone's ball game the last month of the season, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Drew?
Meow, meow, Viking cow. Not much I can add on to the two amigos that they've already said. Like I said, let's have a game where they come out fast, go up a couple touchdowns, add on a couple touchdowns. By the early in the fourth quarter, Mattison's in there. The Vikings are rolling to a cruise. Let's have a cruise win. That's what I want. That's probably not what's going to happen. But again, how we say so many times, I'll just leave it right here. If the Vikings lose this game to the Jacksonville Jaguars, it'll be because they.
No!
It'll be because Drew froze up.
It'll be because.
You froze up. It'll be because why, Drew?
It'll be because the Vikings beat themselves.
Okay.
Yes.
We don't want to see that happen.
Yep.
Hey.
Well, that's the only way that's why they lose games. They do it to themselves.
Generally.
It's not the other. It's usually not. It's usually not the other team. We're handing it to them.
We snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
Exactly.
Oh, we're really good at that.
I want to thank everybody that joined us tonight, and remind you.
Thank you.
That we have 15 minutes after the game, we go live within the Raw. With Drew.
I'm always in the Raw. I'm in the Raw every week, baby.
And maybe Ted. If he's not getting stitches in his face from eating all that glass.
What happened?
But join us then on Sunday, 15 minutes after the game, and join us tomorrow morning. The show tomorrow will be tomorrow morning with Tyler Fornes, and we're going to talk about draft needs because why not? It's a good time to start looking, and I know Drew's already started his draft prep. So
hey, make sure tomorrow, make sure you give Tyler a hearty congratulations because he made the most important draft pick of his life a couple months ago and got married.
Yes, he
so
did.
He's a newlywed.
Yes, he did. With that, and Reggie.
I'm not even going to say anything to that.
What's up, Reg?
Boom, boom, SKOL. Let's go, baby.
Yeah! Reggie, how about that gobble horn game, baby?
Hey, Reggie.
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. SKOL, everybody.